light.
So Louise, let's talk about some of the songs on the album. Let's take the first one, Just Another Day. What are your feelings on that?
Well, Just Another Day is the title track of the record, and the song for me is, it's really all, the lyrics are all about my son, and you, Craig Fall, my writing partner, and I wrote the lyrics. And usually if it was in the past songs when we had written, I'd come and I'd say, hey Craig, I'm kind of going through this feels something that's important to me at this stage in my life. I always kind of try to, just go organically with whatever's going on with me at the time, and I have some feeling or passion about. And my son was a teenager at that time, still is, and boy, he was in a performing arts school, and it was kind of free, so all the influence was there, and the Hollywood influence. We're here in Los Angeles area and everything. And he started kind of veering. If life is a road, he started kind of hitting the boundaries there, and I was worried about him falling into the ravine, so to speak. So it was just basically day to day. And so the premise of Just Another Day is literally that, and being trying to be the best father I could be, and getting my son through those troubled times.
Let's talk about Move On.
Well, Move On is, same thing as Just Another Day. I had been, had a relationship with a woman, a great woman, and we just kind of met in a place where we were both kind of going through a reinvention of ourselves. And once we got to a point where we kind of were clear about that, it was clear that our lives were pulling us into different areas, and it wasn't I wanted her to be something that she wasn't, or vice versa, but our lives were becoming more defined, and we were happier because of that. But it was there was clearly a fork in the road, that it wasn't worth the compromise to be together in order to pursue our passions. And mine was to continue my musical career, and hers was in other endeavors. And so it's a breakup song in a lot of ways, but it's a song that just reflects on having a respectful relationship, and and frankly, being old enough or adult enough to just to leave well enough alone and call it quits, and then move on.
Tell me, and that's not a question.
Yeah, well, tell me is, if I was on an island and I just had to do one thing, and with the guitar or whatever instrument, I'd be playing the blues, unless it was Jamaican, of course it'd be like bluesy reggae. But I'm a blues guy, and I love the blues, and it was just a tune that I had written, probably 20 plus years ago. It was on one of my first band's record. I was a bass player, and there was another singer on it, and it was a good performance. But I'd been doing it. Well, the truth is, I was in Moritz, and I was playing with this boogie woogie band, these young guys in St. Moritz, like 2 summers ago, and they were kicking, man. They were so young, and this guy was just running everything at high tempos, and I was like, just sitting in with him, I was like, good Lord. And they sing another one, and I was running out of material, and so I just pulled Tell Me out of the belt, and it was swinging and, shuffling, and the crowd loved it. They were dancing. It was the best of times there in that one afternoon in St. Moritz, Switzerland. And so I was in the moment. I said, "Boy, that's a cool tune. I forgot about that, and let me see what I can do." And so we recorded it, and it ended up being great.
How blue can you get?
Well, my musical education, for sure, if I were to mention a few artists, would be B.B. King. It would be Sly Stone, especially the Fresh record, Marvin Gaye, What's Going On, a lot of the Zeppelin, a lot of the Beatles, a Spotweld moment with Hendrix, Band of Gypsies record, those types of things. And so I just, how blue can you get? I watched BB on that Sing Sing performance and pouring his heart out. And I just always identified with the song. I just always loved it, and so I got to pay my respects to the guys that taught me how to play, basically, and the blues,
With or without you?
Well, With or Without You. I know it was a hit song and everything, but the truth is, I didn't own that particular record by U2. just didn't, and not by choice or anything. And then all of a sudden, I'm in Europe and I'm playing in the bars, and in that scene it was the troubadour scene, and so you'd play the guitar and for 5 sets, and then sometimes you'd have to do a duo gig. And so the way it worked is sometimes you would meet your duo partner the night of the gig, not knowing any of the same material in a lot of cases. And so one night I was duo put with like an Italian gypsy type of guy. And he didn't play a lot of blues, and he was doing all these obscure pop tunes that I didn't necessarily know, but we made the best of it. But at one moment, he had a loop on that particular song, on With or Without You, and we were in this real Scandinavian bar, and everyone was loud and drinking, and we hit that tune, and I was improvising with them, and we did that, and the whole bar silenced. And it was the way we approached it, and it silenced the whole room, and the applause was roarious at the end. So it was just a nice moment, and it kind of stuck with me. I said, wow, that was a cool arrangement of that. I mean, it's 4 chords over and over again, but you can color it. It's got a lot of freedom to color it musically, and so I just kept running with it, and it evolved into getting on the record.
Alice, Don't Cry.
Well, Alice Don't Cry is, it's a tune about my family. Alice is my mother, and my sister, and just like most everybody is touched these days by addiction and the trials and tribulations of life, and we all have that universal challenge. And in L.A. or the cities, I'm sure it's probably more available, or that influence. And so that's an old tune that I wrote at a very emotional time in my family's life. And I'm just in a different space as a man these days. I live on a church. I'm not in the bell tower or anything, but I'm on the campus and kind of involved in some outreach programs there to help people. And so it was a good spiritual tune, and so I wanted to. Again, this was supposed to be a live record, so it was like we were going to do a live performance of the best material that I felt I had written and or co-wrote. And so it made the cut, and we put it on there.
Get Up Into It.
Well, Get Up Into It is a tune I wish I had some philosophical description of it, but it's really just one of those pure, crystal clear tunes about procreation, and if you see that other person, I'm trying to be universal about this. In my case, you see that girl, and just it overwhelms you, and you have the imagery of being close. I know you kids are watching this at home.
Yeah, tastefully.
Yeah, thank you. Of being real close. Then when you have those images, that was just a way of expressing it. And then the groove is pretty primal, and it lends itself to that sort of activity. And so that was really the intention. So that's the romantic one, guys. Just keep repeating that one. What track? What number is it? Just keep hitting 10. Repeat. We should do an extended version, right? As a thought. Yes.
La Petite Mort.
Yes. Perfect. That'll work. For all you linguistic purists out there, we're butchering the French language here, but bear with us, please. It's a forgiving crowd. Well, that tune is a tune I had written, co-written with a woman named Vanessa Amador, who was from Puerto Rico, and she was a great lyricist, and we had talked about again, back to talking about passion and passion and poetry of passion, and so that tune, I did it on my first solo record, and kind of played everything myself. And this time I'd evolved as a nylon string guitar player, and Craig Fall, who's doing this interview and facilitating this whole shoot, ladies and gentlemen, one of my good friends and co-writers. Craig is a great guitar player, and I always loved the way he played guitar. Love the way he played guitar. So the idea was, I really wanted to just have an open section where I could take a ripping nylon string solo, and you and I could have an opportunity to kind of color the music against each other as guitarists, and that's it. I mean, it's really that. And I guess I should pay tribute to the Spanish sound in me. Is Oliart is a Basque name. My father's from Peru, but I lived in Sevilla for a few months when I was a kid because my dad was bilingual, and he was in aviation in the 70s and stuff. So I lived out there, and we used to go to the local bar or whatever it was just to have something to eat, or restaurant. And it just, as a kid, there was always a guitar there, and some guy would be playing the guitar. Next thing, these two people, and it wasn't anything sexual or trying to pick somebody up, but there could be an old senior woman and a young man, and he would just grab her hand, and they would start dancing, to the flamenco guitars, and it was just a part of the culture. Nothing weird. It was just a very freeing thing that I witnessed a lot when I was there, and it just stuck with me. I just said, wow, that's awesome, and more of that,
Let It Go.
Let It Go was one of those, sometimes a man, has got a vent, and for whatever reason, I don't know, whatever anybody believes, it was in the moon, it was in the stars, it was in the alignment, it was my own creation, but there was a lot of women in my life. It could have been mom, it could have been this and that. I'll leave that to your imagination. But there was quite a few that all just, for whatever reason, were coming at me. And I worked through all of it, but I was very irritated. And so that tune came very quickly, I just kind of... And I'd been listening to a lot of Muddy Waters and watching him on video, his performance. And I was always so impressed, his voice and how crystal clear his enunciation is and the body of his voice. And so that's really a tribute to Muddy Waters. And then I was just kind of trying to get out of my pissed off state of being and be a man of peace.
Let It Run.
Let It Run is a tune that I wrote when I had a little run as a stepdad, and there was this girl, and her name was Austin, and though I wasn't married to her mother, I was there at the house for like 4.5 years or so, and that was the mother of my son, and she was going through some high school social pain, which is the first line of the song. And so, just as I was witnessing that, it was just one of those simple things that came by, and it was just a little ditty that I put together that was inspired by just watching a young, everything is so socially painful and I think as adults we forget that it's all relative. So when a little kid is 13 or 11 or whatever they are, and whatever they're going through emotionally or socially, that even though we may know they'll get through it and they'll be able to face the other, but their pain is just as real at that moment and as heartbreaking as it is as when you're an adult. And I think we lose sight of that sometimes as adults. I do anyways, and so I try to stay connected to that with our youth so I can relate.
Let's talk about Drifter.
Well, Drifter is, for all you up-and-coming directors out there, or you veteran directors, is my dabble in scoring music. I have the guy who mixed the record and another musician who is a dear friend, and his name is John Carta, and he mixed the record and has actually mixed the last 2 records. And John has a music library, so we have a lot of composers, and we provide music for background scenes, and it's kind of like scoring, but it's almost like you can go and shop for a mood, and it's a good thing. I mean, it's just kind of where the industry went. I mean, but I love film, always have loved film, and I always love those Ry Cooder soundtracks and the Walter Hill films like Southern Comfort, and of course the film Crossroads, and so as I get older and everything, I'm not saying I want to do that completely. I'll always want to play live, but I'm dabbling in more of that and want to get more into playing to screen and creating moods against cinema. And so that's one of those ditties that was written for that purpose. And I just liked it, and I thought it would be kind of a palate cleanser in the record before the last tune.
Jesus Coming Down the Road.
Jesus Coming Down the Road is a gospel tune. Like I said, I've lived on a church for the last 7 years. I was security, and in the sense of something that's really been saving in your life. I was a single dad with my son, and the church gave me a good deal to live as far as renting from them, in trade-off of basically taking care of the alarm systems and things like that to preserve the goodness that's there, with all the children's development and all that stuff. So, though I was a musician, I could turn the alarms off in the morning and then come home late from the gig, walk the premises, lock it up, and turn it off at night. So it freed me up, frankly, for the last years to pursue my art. And that was the trade-off. So it's been great, and just through osmosis, just through being there, it was just my way of paying my respects to the community that I had found there. And then, as far as musically goes, the tune, it's important for me the front end solo on this particular version of the tune was really inspired by B.B. King and that How Blue Can You Get performance. And I played this at a funeral for a friend once, and he'd asked me, it was his wife that passed, and I played that tune and just improvised the front end, and you could hear a pin drop, and it was a very poignant moment for me, and felt like I gave him something special to say goodbye to his wife. And so I had that front end. Again, it was a moment with the audience, and I wanted to keep that arrangement. And then the concept is also the image of Jesus when the last leg of his life was carrying the cross, and so like Hendrix duplicated with the guitar the sounds of war with Vietnam, and he was such an influence that I wanted to create the imagery of, wow, that's pretty gnarly to be dragging something that probably outweighs you 2 or 3 times, and having to drag that thing to be, that's pretty brutal stuff. To be crucified, so I wanted that kind of imagery, and that's gritty, that's a gritty blue thing, a dark thing, and but also there's some light in all of that imagery, and so I tried to capture that in the arrangement of that song. That was important to me.
Give me your final thoughts on the album.
Well, I'm looking forward to playing it all live, because there's nothing that would make me happier than having all the guys on stage. That guys, and of course Kylie on Jesus. I didn't mention Kylie Dean came. Kylie Dean is the other singer on Jesus Coming Down the Road, and she came, and she was just on break from wherever Madonna was taking her. She's in Madonna's band over the last couple of world tours or whatever, and I backed her up for a while, and we always got along. And she's a pure heart, and she just sings. When you produce her, you say, okay, Kylie, and here we go. You run it 4 times, and then you comp down a vocal. And usually the second one, it's got 90% of everything on it. It's a real joy to watch someone that's gifted. And so she's on the record, and I knew that would bring the essence of that particular tune to a higher level, having her there. And as far as in retrospect with the record, I'm just looking forward to seeing, where it goes organically. I am going to go out of my way and have the energy now and inspiration, actually, to try to get it out there and get as many people listening to it as they can, and just, I have faith that it'll go where it's supposed to go. But I'm definitely going to be in action around getting out there and playing the tracks, playing it live with my buddies, and that's really all that makes me happy. My son, we're playing a lot. I have a teen trio with him, so we'll be gigging too. And we'll see where life takes us.
Thanks for talking to us today, Luis.
All right. Pleasure, Craig.
Yeah.